Hello and welcome to Awakening the Blog. Today I would like to talk a little bit about the choices that we need to consider when we encounter our twin flame. And wow, there's so much that has gone on that it's been quite an experience, actually. Last time I said it was time to carry on, and I firmly believe it's so. I thought that it was okay to leave a door open, just as, a personal friendship, since my soul connection was gone, and it still is, thank goodness. And it was an option, it was a choice I made. Obviously, I didn't have the urge or the need or the desire to communicate with him, but he did. So he has communicated a couple of times. And as usual, as it has been his tradition, always finding a way to hurt me successfully. Last time we talked, like about a month ago, I didn't say much, because obviously I don't have any impulse to be the one doing the talking or suggesting topics to talk about, and so he was in charge, and the conversation was very boring and dull. He said a friend of his was going to go visit from Spain, and since he has told me that I could never stay with him because the only person that he would allow in his house, his studio, was his sister. So I asked, so where is she going to stay? And he said, obviously she's going to stay here with me. And I says, oh, okay. So she's going to stay in the couch that you didn't allow me to stay. And he said, yes. And I think it was a great decision that I made, not allowing you to come. Obviously, it hurt. Not as much as before, but there was this cynical way of saying it that it hurt. So, I didn't bother to communicate more with him. A couple of weeks went by, and I went to surgery for gallbladder removal. It's been 7 years of frustration, anger that I've expressed and I've repressed, but mainly that I've been able to express it to him. But yet my gallbladder could not stand that much. So I had these gallbladder stones that I wanted to be removed before I got those horrible pains, and it was a good idea. So that was like about a week ago, and I understood that there was a relationship, at least according to the medicine I practice, which is traditional Oriental medicine, where gallbladder and liver have to do with anger, and so decision making, gallbladder, and so he didn't know about it. I have not been in contact with him since that time where he said that thing, and I was kind of hurt, but it didn't matter that much anymore. And a few days after I got my surgery and I was in recovery, he communicated with me, and we did a little chat. But the day after he communicated with me, Suddenly, through WhatsApp, I started being seduced by him. Something that I considered it was so strange because, I mean, for 7 years he's rejected me in every possible way. He's been mean to me in every possible way. So I thought this is quite unusual. And a couple things crossed my mind. I said, well, maybe since the girl, the lady that he has been in love with, and that he so diligently put it into my face, she is no longer interested in him. I would say smartly and for obvious reasons. So he was probably feeling alone, and he started seducing me. He had choices, I guess, with other women, but he chose me. I actually didn't believe him. All the things that he said felt very, very uncomfortable. Like he started saying that he wanted me, and I said, "Oh yeah, you surely want to hurt me. I'm sure, like that's been your pattern." He says, "No way. I want to be in bed with you. I've had these subconscious images come to me," and he knew the words that would touch me. He said, "My soul is changing, and I feel your lips," and he started getting all this crazy things telling me in WhatsApp, and I was just like, what's going on with this guy? And obviously a little part of me felt flattered, and I said, is it possible really that he might be changing and finally he's connecting to himself to remember a little bit about who am I, what am I for him? But that's quite impossible in at least the kind of person he is. But he used the words like, my soul is changing, and I'm having these images with you, and I see how I'm doing it while you lay on bed silent. It's like, I said, you this is insane. What's wrong with you? And at the end of this episode of shocking phrases that he used to seduce me, I said, are you drunk? Have you been drinking or something? And so it was pretty late where he was at. He didn't answer, and also I went to sleep, and feeling a little, it's like uneasy. It's like, what's really happening here? It is 7 years and he's never ever considered something like that, and he's rejecting me for my skin color, for my weight, for everything possible. And I said, this is not right. I mean, something's really bad. It crossed my mind that, I knew his situation of him being dropped by his love. And so then when I woke up in the morning, he said, yes, like he made me understand that he's been drinking, and he said there were great reasons to do it. And I thought, okay, I want to know those reasons. I demand an explanation to your behavior. And obviously the first thing that crossed my mind when he said there are great reasons for this was that he was going to say, I'm starting to feel something for you. I'm starting to understand that I've felt something for you. But that's what first came to my mind. And I forgot to consider the other possibilities because I was a little hopeful. That's why I don't have that much faith in hope, because hope could be very dangerous. And so he said, well, guess, I'm sure you know, guess. And I was a little confused, and then he says, it's her. She dropped me or something like that, and that's why. And I said, what? You came on to me that strongly because you were getting kicked by her? I mean, that she's not paying attention to you and so you seduced me? What kind of being are you? You're pure evil. Oh God. You have no conscience. Oh, and I just said everything that I have been feeling about him lately. And I went through hell. I really felt I went through hell. My ego was humiliated. My womanhood was humiliated. But mostly that feeling of him have never understood the kind of relationship this is, at least for me. I mean, my experience of him, my relationship with him is one. His relationship with me is another one. We can never take for granted that how I feel is what the relationship is all about, and that he feels the same way I feel about the relationship, because he's receiving from me something that is making him feel something about the relationship, whereas I'm receiving something else that is obviously making me feel something completely different about the relationship. I told him while we were chatting that day that the only way that he can penetrate me, as he suggested, was through his soul. And he said, oh yes, I know, but he continued with his sexual mouth, and I knew he didn't understood anything of what I said. So when I demanded the explanation and he finally told me it was about her, and I said, oh, God, this is just madness. This is just pure evil. And he says, oh, but why? I mean, he was so apparently unconscious of what he was doing. He said, oh, I just felt lonely and I wanted a hug. But that's not how he came on to me. Obviously, no feeling, because he's unable to have any feeling for anybody, because he doesn't have any feeling for him. So all that he is a narcissistic being, concentrated in his own needs, but disregarding completely the needs of the other person. That's how he has been with me, and I'm sure that's how he is with everybody, because it's his pattern. And I've been processing this, which wounded me and hurted me so profoundly. And I wanted to give it an outlook to this. A new look at it from a not personal perspective, because that's where the pain comes for me. But understand something, and not for the reason of protecting or excusing any of his horrible, evil behavior. But understanding in another perspective, that is that where his behavior is coming from. And it's coming from pure darkness. And what does pure darkness means? It's, for me at least, for what I have been able to contemplate, is this ignorance of knowing who he is, of having the smallest notion of a purpose of existing in life and having a spiritual connection, which is, I think, the most powerful experience we can ever have. That is why, these 7 years I've been connected to him in spite of his horrible attitude towards me at the personal level. And it's because I was having two relationships in one. I was having a relationship with this soul, and I'm not going to deny it, because it was real and it happened. And I've shared all the things that have happened with that being, who is this soul, that I imagine has a connection to this human person that is completely in darkness. he is probably living in hell, in the worst hell than what I've been able to experience in myself through the personal experiences with him. But I'm sure there's a connection. I don't know what kind of connection. I have not been able to discern and be clear about that, but there is a connection between that soul and that being. I came to think about so many things. I mean, is he a projection of me? I mean, he lives in such a level of disconnection from himself, and I really feel the connection I have with spiritual dimensions, and maybe, my spiritual dimension connections are stronger than my physical bodily connections, and he is the complete opposite of me. I have never ever met somebody that has been of importance in my life or has had a sort of connection in with me that is as opposite as it can be. And then I thought, okay, do we really understand when we say that we are polar opposites? Twin flames are supposed to be the polar opposites of the one cell when we were created, and for duality purposes and living in these realms of third dimension, we needed to divide and separate when they were polar opposites, like positive and negative. And so it's like, oh God, he is the extreme opposite of me in every possible way. And so I thought that obviously I need to work on myself and just understand that, okay, no matter what a strong spiritual connection I might have with somebody, now that I've gone through it and I've valued that spiritual connection and that I cherish that soul and love profoundly that soul, but that human being is so evil, that at this point where I'm at right now is that no matter, really, doesn't matter how surprising and curious that spiritual connection can be and how powerful it can be, it's not worth it having to go through hell in my own personal world. Remember when I shared in one of the first chapters that the first few months after we met and I was falling in love because I felt a connection. I really felt that soul that was so present and it was just so much there. But the first hurting things that he told me, they were so strong as well that I felt ill for 3 months and I was unable to move. I was paralyzed. That's how it started, and now it's ending, because for me it's really ending now. I've closed all the doors now with such a humiliation in every possible way. And so, is it worth it really? I don't know. I cannot say, because I've learned so much. And there was a part of me when I was having this relationship that in spite of all the hurt that he was offering me at the personal level, I didn't want to let go because there was so much going on at that spiritual level that was so much more powerful and so beautiful, and it was so full of love and so full of gentleness, and I learned about unconditional love and so much that obviously, why would I want to let go if I'm learning so much at the spiritual level? You know how sometimes in order to awaken spirit, we have to sacrifice the physical body and go through long periods of fasting to awaken spirit? It's a sort of sacrifice at the physical realm to awaken spirit. Well, at emotional or mental level, it's the same thing. And I really don't want to have any more unnecessary tears in my life. Really, I swear. But this is just so raw. It just happened a couple of days ago that I'm still processing it. But I've come to realize that the best experience that we can look for, if we are open to grow spiritually and to experience the amazing power and beauty of the spiritual realms in our personal relationships, is to find and hopefully attract, however all this amazing universe works, somebody that is coherent in his connection to himself, that is coherent in his spiritual and physical realm. Because in that kind of way, and I have another video that I talk about conscious relationships that I invite you to watch, that's in the blog or also in the channel. I think that would be the most fulfilling. Now, if we are okay with the manual on how our lives are supposed to be held and developed, maybe we didn't have to go through so much hell. But I guess that's part of the mystery of life, that we have to go through experiences in order for us to learn something and sort of find our way to alignment. I've chosen to leave this horrible and magnificent relationship, horrible at the personal, just ecstatic at the spiritual, from a very perspective of willing to learn. I was open to learn about me, about spirit, about matter, about relationships. And I can probably say that I visited hell with this relationship and through him. But I'm willing to learn from this. I'm really willing to learn from this. I'm not willing to go through any more unnecessary tears in a relationship. I shared with you that last year, actually at the beginning of this year, I met somebody that it felt that he and I were resonating at the same station, at the same channel. And it did feel like a soulmate connection, which is completely different from the twin flame. And I say completely because it's actually felt so differently. But even having that, even if we are resonating or in tune in the same channel, if there is no respect, if there is no trust, if there is no freedom, if there is no love, if there is no conscious desire to work on a relationship, at least for me, doesn't work anymore. I mean, I'm not willing to accept anything less. And gosh, I've got to go through all of this and the few relationships I had in my life to finally being able to say no to something that is not going to be worth working for. Now, I think I need to recover the pieces of me that have been completely wounded by the way he's treated me, and basically how I allowed him to treat me, by accepting to continue this relationship, though I always knew there were two in one. I always knew the one in the soul, and I always knew how awful the personal self was. But since the package came as one, I had to accept both if I wanted to have that soul connection. I'm grateful for that soul having retreated as a gift of love, I imagine, to allow me to just say no more here. I mean, I've been wounded for what he said without having the connection anymore. I cannot even imagine how much I would have been wounded if that connection would have still been there. I don't know. I'm not clear about karmic implications in this. If, because I thought, oh God, have I been maybe in a past life so mean to somebody, so for him to be with me like that? It's a possibility. I don't know. I'm not clear about that. My experience of a past life with him, I already shared it in the past life regression chapter. I know how I built myself and what my tendencies and my personality and what I have come to this life with. And I am thankful and I cherish the gifts that I've been given. So I don't know if this has to do with karmic implications or just the way I've chosen to learn about darkness and about polar opposites and about being able to choose and to say no to the things that are not worth having in one's life. And I imagine, I know that has an implication for everybody, but we need to go through the experience of being able to know that we can actually choose and say no. For me, the attraction of the spiritual connections was so powerful that I had to accept the horrible personal connection. But no more. No more. I've met pure evil. I'm sure he was probably feeling joy of watching me being torn into pieces, because he's done it. And every time he says, oh, it's not my desire to hurt you. He always says that, but he still continues to hurt and hurt and hurt and hurt and cut me into pieces if he could. But I'm not going to allow that to happen no more. So I thank you so much. I will continue to share more things as the story unfolds in my life, not with him, because for me this is it, really. And I invite you to follow us in our Facebook, in our YouTube channel, in our blog. Thank you so much for being part of this story. Until the next chapter in my life story, if you want to share, my purpose now is actually to be able to share with you a process as a way of bringing light to our own darkness, because we are so unaware of so many things, and we start awaking to things as they unfold. But listening to somebody else's experience can help us maybe manage or face a little better when we have our own experiences of darkness and of pain and suffering. And his fate is of his own making. His darkness, I can say no more to the darkness, and I'm able to appreciate the strength that I've gotten from this to be able to say no. Okay, thank you so much, and we'll be sharing more things as I discover, and I'm able to share with you insights that are worth sharing. Please visit the blog. There are other things besides the Twin Flame story, but I'll see how I can manage to reach to you. If you subscribe to our blog, you will be notified of the next videos that I will share. Okay, thank you. Until the next one.